Today I'm going to teach you how to crochet this Babybel-Inspired cheese. All you'll need is red and cream yarn, a crochet hook, some polyfill or something to stuff it with, a stitch marker so you don't lose your spot, and at the end you'll need some scissors and a needle. And that's it. All right, let's get started. So I'm gonna start by showing you how to make the cheese, but since white is kind of hard to see on video, we are gonna be making blue cheese with this blue yarn, so it's a little bit easier to see. And I have my 4mm hook and a stitch marker because we're working in rounds and we don't wanna lose our spot. So I'm gonna start by making a magic circle. I hold it how I normally hold my yarn, then wrap it around my pointer finger, and then wrap it around again to make an X. Hold that X down with my thumb and then pull it off my finger. Go through that circle we just made, yarn over and pull that yarn through. It's a loop around the hook, yarn over and through that little loop we just made. And now we have our magic circle. So now we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. Make sure that you're holding this loose end right here and this side of the circle together while you work into it. So into the magic circle, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over through the 2 loops on the hook. And that's 1. I need to do a total of 6. 2, whoa, lost the yarn a little bit. 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 single crochets into the magic circle. Now I'm going to close our circle by pulling this loose end right here, or tail end, whatever you want to call it. So for round 1, we're going to be working 2 single crochets into each stitch. So you gotta find that first one, and my first ones are always a little bit tight, so they're kind of hard to work into. Let's see, there we go. I'm gonna undo it to show you. So there is our first stitch right there out of 6. So I'm gonna go into it and work a single crochet. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2. Now that is our first stitch of round 1. So I am going to mark it so we don't lose our spot. Great. So like I said, round 1 is 2 single crochets into each stitch. So we just did 1. Now I need to do a second single crochet into that same spot right there that we just worked out of. So another single crochet into that same stitch. And now we have 2 single crochets coming out of that first stitch. Now I need to move on to the second one. So here's our next stitch right here. I feel like this yarn is always kind of hard to see. I'm going to go through that spot, yarn over, pull through, and do a single crochet. That's 1. Now you see that same spot that we just worked out of. I'm going to do another single crochet into that same stitch. So we have 2 single crochets into that stitch. So I'm going to keep going, doing 2 single crochets into each stitch. You're going to do it a total of 6 times. And at the end of round 1, you should have a total of 12 single crochets. So we've made it back to the stitch marker. That means we're ready for round 2. For round 2, we're going to be working a pattern of 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets, so an increase into the following stitch. We're going to repeat this pattern all the way around and do it a total of 6 times. So let me show you. We are going to start with a single crochet into that first stitch. Woo! And then mark it. And then an increase, so 2 single crochets into the following stitch. So that's 1 single crochet. And then I'm going to do 1 more into that same spot. 2 single crochets. And then we just keep repeating that pattern. So the next one will be 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the following stitch. 1, and then another one into that same spot. I'm going to jump ahead, but repeat that all the way around. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So keep doing that, and I will see you at the stitch marker. Now we've made it back to the stitch marker, so we're ready for round 3. So for round 3, the pattern is going to be 1 single crochet, then 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then an increase, so 2 single crochets into the third stitch. So let's start with our first single crochet. And then I'm going to mark it. 1 single crochet into the following stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the third stitch. I'll show you one more time. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the third stitch. So there's 1, and I'm going to the same spot, and there's 2. And then keep doing that all the way around. 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets into that third one. I'm going to keep going and fast forward, but I'll see you when we make it to the stitch marker again. So we've just finished round 3, and we are actually done with the front of our cheese. Now we need to work the sides, and to do that, we are going to do 2 rounds of a single crochet into every stitch. So I'm going to start with 1 single crochet, and then continue round 4 doing a single crochet into each stitch. I'm going to jump ahead, but I'll see you when I get to the stitch marker. So I just finished round 4, which was 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Now for round 5, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So a single crochet into each stitch. I just did the first one, so I need to mark my spot again. And then keep going, a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So I just finished round 5, which was a single crochet into each, and actually the end of the side. So you'll see our pieces starting to roll in like this. We actually need to flip it out and turn it because we're gonna start doing the back side. So to start round 6, we're gonna be doing the exact opposite of what we did for the front. So we're gonna do a single crochet into the first stitch, a single crochet into the front stitch, and we're going to be doing a decrease. So we're going to make these 2 stitches into 1. So let me show you. 1 single crochet into that first stitch, and then I'm going to mark that stitch so I don't lose my spot. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then we need to do a decrease. So we got to take these 2 stitches and make them 1. You can do a decrease however you like. I like doing the invisible decrease because that's how I learned. So to do an invisible decrease, we're going to grab the front loop only. So instead of going all the way under like that, we're going to go in and kind of split this V right here. So you're right into the middle of your stitch, and we get that front loop. Now I'm going to do it again on the next stitch. So come in and split the yarn. So I'm only taking the front loop. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops and not through the last loop. Now I'm going to yarn over again and go through both the loops. And now we've done a decrease. So we're going to repeat this. 1 single crochet, and then 1 single crochet into the next loop, and then a decrease. So I'm going to go split the first one, split the second one, yarn over through those first 2 front loops, and then yarn over through those 2 loops. And you're just going to keep repeating this all the way around until you reach the stitch marker again. So I'm going to jump ahead, but I'll see you at the stitch marker. All right, I just finished round 6, and now we're on to round 7, which is very similar to round 6. Instead of having 2 single crochets at the front, we're just going to do 1 single crochet and then a decrease. So I'll show you. Here's round 7, our first single crochet. Mark it, and then another decrease. Front loop of the first one, front loop of the second one, yarn over through those first 2, and then yarn over through those 2. I'll show you one more time. 1 single crochet, front loop of the next one, front loop of the next one, yarn over through those 2, and then yarn over through those 2. There we go. If you're new to decreasing and kind of having a hard time figuring out where to work into next, you can always use another stitch marker to kind of hold the spot of the 3rd following stitch so you'll know what to do after your decrease. But yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around. 1 single crochet, and then we're going to decrease into these 2. The 3rd one you could put a stitch marker if you get stuck. But I'm going to jump ahead, and I will see you when we reach the stitch marker at the end of round 7. Oops. So I have just finished round 7, and before we go on to round 8, I'm going to put some stuffing into the piece. So first I am going to grab this tail and make sure I pulled it tight. This is from our magic circle earlier. And then I'm going to just push that in as extra stuffing. Now I'm going to pull our loop really wide that we're working in just to move my hook so it's not in the way and we don't lose our spot. I guess this would hold our spot too. So I'm going to grab my polyfill. I'm going to use some black because I have some extra from another project. And it seems to be never ending. Kind of pull it apart. It's making such a mess. Great. And then I am just going to stuff it into the piece. I like to make sure it's full, but I don't want it to be packed too firm because I want the cheese to be flat. And if it gets too full, it starts to kind of go round. So just kind of trying to find my sweet spot. All right, and just kind of like push it around. That feels good. I think that's a good amount. All right, now let's get back into round 8. We're working around the polyfill. So round 8 is going to be just 6 decreases all the way around. So we're going to jump right in with a decrease. So into that first front stitch, use my finger to help me, and then into the next one. Yarn over through the first 2, yarn over through the next 2. And that was our first stitch, so we need to mark it. This is always harder when it's constant decreases and there's polyfill in there, but we'll get through it. So one more, find that front loop. Find the front loop of the next one, and then yarn over. All right, I'm going to fast forward through this, but do a total of 6 decreases for this round, and I'll meet you at the stitch marker. All right, there we go. I finished my 6 decreases. making this big again and taking my hook off because I'm gonna kind of use it to kind of push the polyfill around kind of how I want it. You can even add a little bit more if you think you need it, but mine feels like it's in a good spot. So now it's time to grab your scissors and cut the end, but leave a little bit of a tail because we're going to be sewing this close. It doesn't need to be very long actually. I'm gonna take my stitch marker out, maybe, and then pull this through. Now I'm going to take this end and grab a needle and thread it. This yarn's always harder to work with. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch. It's kind of turning in, but it's right here. There's the V, and I'm going to go through the front loop only, just like those decreases. And then the front loop of the next stitch. And then a front loop of the third stitch. And then just keep doing front loops all the way around to the fourth one. And then here is the front loop of the fifth stitch. And then here's our last one. Just get through the front loop of each of those stitches, and then if you pull it tight, it closes the cheese up. There we go, our cheese is all closed up, but we still have this end. So I just kind of push it through the piece, just into any spot. And then that's the hole it's coming out of. I'm gonna go into the same hole and just go out another part of the cheese, our blue cheese, and kind of pull it tight. I'm gonna do it again, maybe go over here. And then I am going to trim this. So I'm gonna pull it tight, cut it, and kind of just pops back in. If it's poking out, you can kind of just push it in yourself. There we go. And now we have our blue cheese. It should look like this though. And a mess to clean up. I'm really trying to get rid of this black polyfill if you can't tell. All right, now we're ready for the shell or the case of the cheese, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it has a proper name, but I'm gonna start with a magic circle. And I have my 4mm hook. If you could also consider sizing up to make the case a little bit bigger, but for me, the 4mm hook works fine on both of them. So I'm gonna finish my magic circle. And we are actually going to start this the exact same way we started the cheese. So 6 single crochets into the magic circle. 1, 2, 6. Then I pull that string close to close our magic circle. Now for round 1, just like the cheese, you're going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. So 6 increases. Here's my first stitch right here. I always have a hard time getting into it. There's 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And now I need to do a second single crochet into that same spot. So there's 2, but I forgot to mark my first stitch. So if you forget to do that, and you know how many stitches you did, that's fine. I know that we just did 1, and there's 2. So this would be our first stitch of the round. Now 2 single crochets into the next stitch, into each stitch around. I'm going to jump ahead, but I'll see you when we get to the stitch marker. I finished round 1 and now we're ready to start round 2, which is exactly the same as the cheese. I'm going to do 1 single crochet into that first stitch and then mark that stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 and then another one into that same spot. Again, I'm going to jump ahead but repeat that all the way around. 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So keep doing that and I will see you at the stitch marker. We finished round 2 and we're on to round 3, and guess what? It's the exact same thing as the cheese. So our first stitch is 1 single crochet, at the stitch marker, and then 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the third stitch, 1 and then 1 into that same spot. So again, just keep doing this all the way around. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the following stitch, and then 2 single crochets into that third stitch. So there's 1 and then into that same spot, 2. So keep repeating this all the way around and I'll see you at the stitch marker. And there we go. Now we're ready for round 4, and actually all the rounds after this are just going to be 1 single crochet into each stitch. I usually do a total of 4, but sometimes I go back and forth if I need to do 5. So this one has 4 rounds and this one has 5. It just makes it a little bit taller. So you can kind of measure it as you go and kind of see if it's going to fit on your cheese or if you think you should do more. This one is a little bit big. Maybe you could do one side has 4. We're going to make another side has 5, but we'll see what works for us as we go. So let me show you. So round 4, we're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So here's 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to mark it. And then I'm going to do a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So you keep doing that too, and I will meet you at the stitch marker. All right, so I have finished round 4, and this is kind of repetitive, but you're going to keep doing single crochets into each one. So we're going to start round 5, removing the stitch marker, and then a single crochet into that first stitch and mark it. So you're going to keep doing this. Let's do it for 3 more rounds. So round 5, 6, and 7, do a single crochet into each. So that's 3 more rounds of single crochets. I'm going to see you at the end of round 7. So I just finished round 7, and make sure to turn your piece to kind of make it rounded, and this tail in the center is just inside there. So rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 were all single crochet. That's 4 rounds of single crochet. If you wanted to make it bigger, you can add a 5th round. Let's kind of see where we're at. Actually, I gotta get our blue one, our blue cheese. And that's actually pretty good. That's like about halfway to the center. And I think that will cover. So I definitely don't need to add a 5th row. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to finish this off by taking out the stitch marker, and then I like to do a slip stitch into that next stitch. So just not a single crochet, but a slip stitch. And then I'm going to cut the yarn and pull it through, pull it tight. Now you see we have this other loose end from our magic circle that's on the inside. So I'm going to pull that one tight, and I'm going to cut that one too. So we just made the first half. Obviously we need to make 2 sides so it can close on the cheese. So you're going to make a second one of these exactly how we did it, but do not cut off the end for that one. So go back and make a second side for the case so we can close the cheese. And I will meet you right before we cut the yarn. Don't cut it because I like to crochet these two pieces together. I tried sewing them and I feel like crocheting them with this little hinge makes it work better. So I'll show you exactly how I do it once we have these two sides. Again, don't cut the end on the second one. All right, so I have just finished my second half. We have our two shells of the cheese. And now I'm actually gonna crochet them together. So now I need to attach these two pieces, and I usually just crochet this in with the piece when I'm working on it. But it's harder for me to do on video, so I am just gonna sew this piece, this loose end in to get it out of our way. And then I'll trim it off. All right, that makes things a little bit less complicated. Okay, so I have my piece that's still attached to the yarn and this other piece, and now we need to crochet them together. So I'm gonna put this top down right there, or top up, I guess, actually. So I'm gonna take my piece that's attached to the working yarn, and I'm going to go into this next stitch right here. And then I'm gonna go somewhere, actually, I'm gonna go where that knot is right there to cover it up. So I'm gonna go in through this stitch right here, grab the yarn over, and pull through both stitches and this loop on the hook to do a slip stitch. And now I'm gonna do that again. So go through the bottom piece with our working yarn, and then go through the next stitch on the top piece, yarn over, pull through those two pieces, and then through the loop on your yarn. So that's two. I usually do like 4 or 5. So let's do it again. Go through the bottom piece, then up through the next stitch on the top piece, yarn over, pull through those 2, and then through that last stitch 2. So that's 3. I'll do another one. Into the bottom stitch, and then into the top stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then through that last one. I'll do it one more time. Through that bottom loop, and then the top piece, yarn over, pull through, and then through that last piece too. Awesome. Now I will cut the yarn and pull through. And now we have our pieces attached together. And then I will just take this and my needle one more time, and then just kind of weave it in so it's secure. And then trim the end. And now we have the shell. For reference, here is one that I did with single crochet, and this is the one that I made with slip stitches. So you can see this one goes a little bit taller. So depending on your preference, you might want to use one or the other. And now you know how to crochet a Babybel cheese. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.